Look up or you'll miss it. No, not that. But you will have to keep an eye to the sky in the plains and the mid-Atlantic where severe weather threatens this afternoon. Rain is falling, smoke is rising, and Tropical Storm Erin churns and burns the Atlantic, headed this way. So don't get caught off guard. Get your bowls ready because this is Cold Rain's Weather World and we've got the scoop and we're about to dish it out. We're going to start with a tropical update. When thunder roars, go indoors, and that is said for a good reason, folks. You all know the saying, but this is why. Look at that big lightning strike way over here, causes an explosion, and then on the right side of your screen, a secondary explosion. Lightning can travel distances even after it has struck an object, folks, so it's very, very important to be very careful when we are talking about lightning. I thought that was really interesting. That happened in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. It was recorded on a dash cam. So very, very cool thing. That's what we do here, folks. We show you the cool weather. We show you what's going on. We keep you informed what's up. This is Cold Rain's Weather World. Jason is my name, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun as we go through this. I'm going to teach you a few things. Like I say, you may not like the forecast always, but I promise you're going to learn something, and we're going to have fun along the way, folks. And here we go. Look at this. So we've got Tropical Storm Erin right out here in the central Atlantic, chugging its way to the west. Convection looks a lot better this morning than it did yesterday morning. We've got it's still lopsided. Western and southern sides are seeing the most convection. Probably got some shear it's dealing with too, as well as some dry air, but that's going to gradually get better. The conditions will as it moves westward. This is a different view of the tropical Atlantic. I'm going to show you a couple of things here. This is the windy map here, and we've got Erin way out here in the Atlantic to the left of your screen, and another tropical wave series moving off the coast of Africa. Additional energy coming off pretty soon, and then more energy and more waves lined up behind this. The wave train is loaded for bear, folks. It is rolling strong, and I wanted to show you that because it will continue. The activity in the tropics will continue for the foreseeable future. Can't guarantee anything about landfalls or strength, but we're going to see waves roll off of here and conditions will gradually improving out here. So we're going to see additional tropical cyclone development, a couple of tropical waves here in the Caribbean, and another frontal zone kind of hanging up attached to this gyre. No more chance of that developing, but got a little frontal zone back here. Another front bringing some showers and thunderstorms from Buffalo all the way down to Mobile, Alabama. Even Dallas getting in on some thunderstorm action this morning. Central South Dakota as well. So a lot of activity to pay attention to as we go on out in time. Here's the National Hurricane Center. There's Erin tracking west at 20 miles per hour, so racing pretty quickly. Max sustained winds 45 miles per hour. Other area of interest up here now with a 0% chance of development, not going to do anything anyway. It's going to head on to the north and east. And over time, look, we've got a little piece of energy here in the Caribbean that's going to work into the Bay of Campeche, and over the next 7 days, it could develop into a tropical depression. Could be a tropical storm, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen fast if it does at all. There's your track with Erin out here in the central Atlantic. By Saturday and Sunday, we're expecting a hurricane by Friday probably, and then over the weekend into early next week, we can see this thing get into a major hurricane status, and then beyond that, potentially high-end major as shear conditions are better. Dry air interaction is better, and really, really warm ocean temperatures exist in this area. We've got to be concerned with the track, and as we talked about yesterday, there are a number of factors playing into that, but at the end of the day, I did a good analysis of why this thing is going to potentially get strong out here. You can check that out in today's video, which I've linked at the end here as well. But here is the steering current map. This is what's going to help drive Erin one way or another, and we're going to look at exactly what the European ensembles, which is probably the best, not probably, it is the best in terms of skill score at handling upper air features. And look what we've got going on as we get into the end of this week. We've got a trough out here. Erin is down here. This little kink in the lines, this is Erin's, if you could see this. Sometimes it doesn't show up well on the ensemble height anomaly map, but this shows you where ridges and troughs are. Ridges steer tropical systems to the west like this. You see there's a ridge anomaly there, and here's another one off the southeast coast. It's been funneling energy into the southeast. That's why we have so much unsettled weather. If you live in the southeast, you know what I'm talking about, folks. Woke up, it was raining again this morning. So there comes Erin across the Atlantic, gets into under this ridge. This little trough here works out. This is Friday of this week. So it's still steering to the west, but look what happens as we get out here. The thing gets north of the islands, and then the ridge sort of breaks. We've got this big upper low and trough working out of eastern Canada, zooming down here toward the northeast. I don't think this is a fantasy. I think this is real because this has been our pattern through the course of the summer. We get these ridges in the south, they migrate back to the west, they open the door for troughs to come into the northeast. You guys have had plenty of shots over the last several weeks where it's felt like fall and dried out and then warmed back up again, courtesy of this kind of a pattern. And then it's going to not change, so I expect this is going to happen as the European ensembles are showing, or pretty close to it. And what happens when that happens? Helps to break down this ridge, this frontal zone sitting off the coast. We've got front moving off the coast in the next couple of days in the eastern United States. That's going to help steer Erin from a west position like this. It's going to help turn the track up to the north. Tropical cyclones, as they get strong, they want to go north anyway, and if they have any excuse to do so, like a break in the ridge, it's going to happen. It's going to zip north, and that's what we're looking at. The fly in the ointment could be that this gets delayed a little bit. If this doesn't come down on time, then this could keep the ridge intact and this thing could get a little closer to the coast. Let's say this is wrong completely and maybe it comes in early and gets out of the picture. Well, it allows the ridge to build back in and steer Erin back to the west. Those are things we're watching, and we're still 7 days out-ish before it would impact anything other than Bermuda and the islands. So if we're looking at any sort of East Coast strike, we've got a few days to watch this. And of course, as we all know, if you've been tracking hurricanes as long as I have, or even for any length of time at all, you know, beyond 3 or 4 days, it's hard to predict exactly where things are going to go. But we are seeing some favorable signs now that most of the guidance is taking this up and harmlessly out to sea, with the exception of maybe Bermuda is the most likely place that would get struck. Here's the European. This brings it on through this weekend. Look, it starts to strengthen it rapidly, and we get on out next Monday, next Tuesday. It splits the gap. Here's Bermuda right here. I'll put a circle around Bermuda so you can see that right here, okay? So keeps the worst conditions to the west and certainly keeps everything offshore of the United States. And there it goes, misses everything, even Newfoundland. Okay, so that's what the European's showing. Here's the GFS. Here it comes down here in the central Atlantic. We get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Bermuda's in the strike zone here. This thing takes it right over Bermuda as a very, very strong, maybe a Category 4 storm. Don't panic. Watch this. We'll keep watching it. The GFS has been kind of jumping around, but I wanted to show you both models just so you have an idea. Again, it kind of squeaks by this peninsula here, up here in Newfoundland, heads on up toward Greenland and into the North Atlantic. That's what the GFS is showing, okay? And then the last but not least, one more view, a couple of more views that we need to look at. Let me get on the right display so we can see this. This is the European ensemble, basically low locations where the all the different ensemble members take this. They're tightly clustered out here around Saturday, Sunday. Things start to diverge as we get into next week, but they're a lot more tightly clustered than they were. So we get in here next Tuesday or Wednesday, look what happens out here toward Bermuda. Really everything curves except for a couple of little laggards back here, but everybody gets strong. All 51 members pretty much have this and get strong, and then everything recurves though. So not even anything getting, a couple of them get close to the coast. That's about it. And there are your tropical models. Let's go back down here. Maybe we can see this better. They are the tropical models, and again, all of them having a recurve. So confidence is growing that we're going to get a recurve. Bermuda could be in trouble. We're going to watch Bermuda, but that's what's going on now. We've got more tropical activity to come in the days ahead, and I'll keep you posted. But right now, we've got to get your weather IQ question rolling, and then we're going to take a look at the severe weather threat and the rest of the weather for the upcoming week, and we're going to end with the space weather and geological update. All right, here's your IQ question, and the question is about lightning, and the question is, what country holds the record for the most annual lightning strikes? Venezuela, the United States, India, or Australia? The answer may surprise you and may be interesting as to why that is. So I'll show you the answer at the end of the show. If you know it beforehand, though, type it in the comments section. Let's see if you got it right. In the meantime, got to get on into the severe weather threat for the plains in the mid-Atlantic for this afternoon and see what else is in store for the rest of us as we go through the rest of the week. Thank you again for joining me, folks. We've had a lot of growth over the last several weeks, and I really want to thank everyone who has signed up and joined the team. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. We cover the weather every single day and all aspects of it, and some shows are a little longer than others, but we get you through all of it. I've got all the chapters broken out down below, so you can get right there. I try to bring it all together. We've got crawlers going across the screen to keep you in the loop about what the Hurricane Center, the Storm Prediction Center, and so on are saying, and we also have a little crawler across the top that has an interesting this day in weather history too, so watch for those things as we go through our show, and certainly let me know if there's anything I can pray over for you. If there's anything on your mind, happy to do that. People come first. Weather's important. Always going to put people first on this channel, though. So let's encourage each other. Pray for me. I need it. With that, folks, and let's go ahead and get in here. Severe weather. We've got severe weather possible this afternoon in the Central Plains here, South Dakota, parts of Wyoming and Nebraska. Slight risk here, and then a marginal risk up for portions of the northern mid-Atlantic into New England, the interior sections of New England. Tornadoes are a possibility as a low pressure sort of gets its act together a little bit, works on some instability and some boundary action here in the lower atmosphere, and certainly wind is the most likely threat, particularly over here in the eastern sections, and then hail is a possibility today as well. Tomorrow, that threat shifts east up here into eastern North Dakota, western and northwestern Minnesota. Marginal risk back for isolated severe weather reports down through South Dakota. Doesn't look like as great of a threat tomorrow, but we certainly could see a couple of tornadoes, some wind, and hail, with large hail possible with steepening lapse rates with height. That's what's going on there. Taking a look here at the surface map, this is a map you're familiar with. There's a frontal zone. This is back here this morning through the Great Lakes into the mid-Mississippi Valley back into the Central Plains. This is going to slide east over the next couple of days and be a focus for showers and thunderstorms. We've got plenty of moisture just being fed in around this high into the east, and certainly could see a couple of areas of flash flooding here in the southern Appalachians where we've seen lots of rain. We're going to see training and a very tropical air mass will squeeze the rain out with great efficiency. There's your severe threat, and a couple of areas back here in the Four Corners region looking at some rain as well. This, my friends, is CAPE. CAPE is instability, a measure of potential fuel for thunderstorms. There's fuel here. Well, the thunderstorms act on it. That's the question. How much fuel do we have? Well, if you look here in the Central Plains, got reds showing up here this afternoon, plenty of yellows and oranges back here in the east. So a lot of instability around, plenty, more than enough to create showers and thunderstorms, and strong ones at that, if we can get some dynamics at play. And we do have a little bit of dynamic action here in the mid-levels in terms of wind, energy surging into the Central Plains. Look what happens tomorrow, though. Big instability up here, North Dakota, South Dakota, working into Minnesota down to Nebraska, and certainly plenty more instability as that front pushes through. There comes that trough that's going to be eventually working in little pieces of it anyway coming in to play up here, and that instability will diminish as we lose the heating of the day tomorrow, and thunderstorms eat up some of that. So here's what's going on this afternoon. As we get on into Wednesday afternoon, thunderstorms and showers develop all up and down the Central Plains, Appalachians, and east through the eastern Ohio Valley into the East Coast. We're going to see plenty of showers and thunderstorms generally back out here in the Four Corners region. Monsoonal action is in effect here, and there's your thunderstorms starting to take shape as we get into the afternoon. We get a little MCS developing here through South Dakota. That's what's going to enhance the wind threat. Couple of supercells are possible as well to bring into play some large hail, and showers and thunderstorms will continue through the afternoon and into the evening. Now we're at about 9 o'clock East Coast time or so, and so we'll see that activity sort of diminish out east overnight, but that activity in South Dakota, you see, kind of holds together, and we get a little secondary push into Minnesota through the nighttime hours, but things should be diminishing in time. We get on out to tomorrow, wash, rinse, repeat, maybe a little bit better conditions in northern New England, interior sections of the Northeast through the Great Lakes, but the Four Corners and Rocky Mountains fire up again, storms firing off the higher terrain back down here in the south and southeast, and Tennessee Valley. We're seeing plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity. This model doesn't really do a lot tomorrow afternoon into the overnight hours. We get a few showers pushing in here, but it's not really showing a severe threat. This is more of a conditional threat. If things bust through the cap, if we get a little bit more of that more push in the mid-levels, we could see things kind of break out, but we're really not seeing a lot of that. But don't let your guard down where I showed you earlier. Their severe weather threat is real, it's there, and it doesn't take but one or two reports in the wrong location to do damage and impact somebody. Smoke is still a problem up here in northern Minnesota, though less of a problem than yesterday. Heat advisories for warm temperatures up here in the northeast and parts of the southeast, including coastal sections of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Back here in the Arklatex area, not quite the Arklatex area, but I'll call it the Arklatex. That's sure, why not? That's right in there, but mostly in Louisiana. And then back over here, hot conditions in the Colorado Plateau and back here into California. Going to see very, very hot temperatures this afternoon, and then windy conditions bringing potential adverse fire weather into play in parts of Oregon and Idaho. So be careful up there. There's your air quality. Bad air up in the north or the northern sections of the Midwest, Dallas, New York. Down here for wildfire smoke in southwestern Colorado, back around Los Angeles. Hold your breath out there. There is the wind map, folks. Look at this. This afternoon, we're going to see windy conditions all in here in the northern Rockies, back into the Great Basin and down through the desert southwest, pockets of 30 to potentially 40 mile per hour gusts. That's where we see adverse fire behavior, so don't burn anything. It's been dry out there. As we look through the next few days in the upper level pattern, this is a very familiar map to us because we look at it from time to time, and the pattern is configured like it has been all summer. All the storm systems are tracking. You can see these little pieces of wind energy here. Here's another kind of one scooting through this afternoon, bringing severe weather threat into South Dakota. Another one up here. Been scooting through the northern tier. That's where all the action has been, except lately we've had this big anticyclone sitting down here just pumping in energy around it, little pieces of energy. There they are. You can see the blue showing up there. That's helping to enhance shower and thunderstorm activity. So going through the next couple of days, flow pattern doesn't change all that much. We've got high pressure ridge down here in the southern plains off the southeast coast, still seeing some unsettled weather as we get into Friday. There are those pieces of energy moving along the northern tier. That will continue to persist as we get this ridge in the central plains building back to the west with time. There comes Erin, and there it is, feeling the effects of this trough coming in. This is the 6Z run. The earlier run I showed you was 0Z, and it's already starting to take its northward turn as it feels this ridge break and migrate back to the west here, leaving a weakness along the coast. Looking out as we go into Friday now, we looked at Wednesday and Thursday in terms of the future radar. Well, here's Friday. We see a little bit more in that way of Minnesota getting involved as we get into Friday evening into the overnight hours. And then as we go on into towards Saturday, could see some storms fire up here in the afternoon and evening hours. Southeast looks to be clearing out a bit. Roll this back a little bit. You'll see a few straggler showers here on Saturday afternoon and evening across the southeast. We're going to see some isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms there. Another kind of boundary coming in up here north, and more energy working through the northern tier will bring some rounds of scattered showers, possibly severe weather Sunday afternoon. But out here in the south, not too bad. Finally, we get a little bit of a break. I might be able to mow the grass. Taking a look here at the total precipitation over the next couple of days. This takes us through the end of the weekend, and you can see our pockets of the heavier rain are kind of like this. This is where we're seeing the most unsettled weather, and eventually over the weekend, a lot of that's going to push on off to the east. That's where we're looking at the most precipitation. And then here are your temperatures as we kind of drive out for the next couple of days. Let me get the right display so we can see all this together. There you go. Chillier up to the, ooh, hey, look at this, Tuesday, that's August the 19th. We need to go back because we are way too far. That is not where I wanted to be. Ha, there we go. Yeah, it's going to get cool. That's the preview of next week, long range look. But not bad up here in the northern Midwest and Great Lakes. Going to be hot in Maine and through New England today. Temperatures in the 90s all the way back down into Florida. We're going to see 80s and 90s down here. Not too bad in the southeast, or upper portions of the southeast. Lower Mississippi Valley 90s, hundreds potentially up here in parts of the plains, but 90s up to the Canadian border. Very hot in the desert southwest today. And another trough sneaking into the northwest. Going to cool you down up there. See, there you go. Starting to get cooler up here. If you're traveling out there, going to be pleasant weather, maybe some showers in the northwest. Still hot in the desert southwest, heat surging into the central plains. This is Thursday, and cooling off a bit in the Great Lakes in the northeast. Still warm, upper 80s down south into the 90s as you get into Florida. That continues to warm up. Plains east warm. Northern tier under the influence of energy and troughing. Going to be a little bit chillier in the 70s. If you call 70s chillier, I call it pleasant. Just called it chillier by accident. And then northwest cooling down, southwest still hot, but not as so. As we get on into Saturday, there you go. Same sort of regime sitting in place, and this ridge will continue to persist in the center portion of the country as we get into Sunday. That is your sneak peek at the weekend. Now we're going to wrap up with space weather, geological weather, and there was another earthquake again. There it is, folks. There's the coronal hole, this big black area turning in toward us. As it does so, it's going to enhance the solar wind. We could get into minor geomagnetic storm conditions over the weekend. We will see, or early next week, we'll watch that. No big sunspots. Everything else is kind of diminished in intensity and complexity. So no real reason to dig into that, but we did have a 6.3 earthquake in Indonesia. Where is Indonesia, you might ask? Well, there it is, right there in the center of your screen. In context, it's way down here in the South Pacific. And let's let the map refresh. You see that star? If you don't see the star, I'll draw it for you just so you can see it. Here it is. Here we are. There it is. You see, that's Indonesia. Had a big earthquake way in those areas way back in the early 2000s, and it created a massive tsunami and killed a lot of people. Nothing going on here, though, in our neck of the woods, and no volcanoes that are affecting us either. Your moon phase is diminishing, 78.7 waning gibbous moon, and going down into a new moon phase on August 23rd. I don't have a historical fact for you today, folks, but I do have the answer to today's Weather IQ question. But you need to look up one more time. You get one more chance to go out near the peak of the Perseids if you can avoid the brightness of the moon and avoid smoke and avoid rain and clouds. Look up and see those fireballs. You get one more chance to see it right near the peak. And in the meantime, got an answer for you to today's Weather IQ question. Here it is. What country holds the record for the most annual lightning strikes? And the answer is, out of all of these, Venezuela. Venezuela, particularly the Lake Maracaibo region, experiences frequent and intense lightning storms known as the Catatumbo lightning. There's a unique area of topography around the lake, and the Andes surround it and some other mountains there, and it creates this vigorous cycle of updrafts because of the wind currents around there, and you get these intense lightning storms, 300 strikes per evening, sometimes throughout the year. That is a lot of lightning, and it happens very, very frequently, and it leads Venezuela to be the lightning capital of the year. There's your sun, and there we have it, folks. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Tune back in tomorrow. We'll have another show, the latest on Erin and any severe weather threats or anything else interesting that I find that I want to share with you. In the meantime, this is Cold Rain reminding you, if other stations run 24/7, we got you covered 48/14 right here, right now. So take care. Have a great day. We'll see you back tomorrow.